Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today we're going to take a look at Redcore Linux. Redcore Linux is based on Gentoo Linux, both the stable and some unstable versions of Gentoo. So this looks really interesting, and kind of what got me started on this was the comment that Mustafa made a while back about installing Gentoo, which I kind of went over in my other video, but I came across Redcore, and Redcore is really cool because Redcore is to Gentoo as Manjaro is to Arch. So Gentoo is a bit of a challenge for some people to install, kind of like Arch is a challenge for some people. Manjaro makes it easy for people to install Arch that don't want to go through the traditional Arch way of using scripts and getting in the console and doing it from a DOS prompt, so to speak. So Redcore is kind of the Gentoo answer to getting into Gentoo really quick and easy and having something done for you. And this looks like a really interesting project. I like it already just being on the web page here. And I even see DT's video up there. So apparently he has done a review on Redcore at some point in time. I haven't really clicked on the video yet, but I'm not really sure if that's a fairly new video or if it's something 100 years old. Hard to say. Anyway, I'm not really sure where the name Redcore came from. I didn't really dig in that deep, but it's a really interesting name. I kind of like it. Redcore there, and it has a cool logo up there as well, and it almost sounds like a name that would attract someone like Ted Nugent to endorse it. You know,
I use Redcore Linux because it's red to the core, just like me. Yeah.
So, yes. Anyway, for who? Redcore Linux targets casual laptop, desktop users, and to some extent, workstation power users. So, it's really kind of targeting pretty much the average guy that wants to play with Linux. And so, I kind of like that perspective, and I want to let you know right off the bat, I'm not a Gentoo user. I'm not really familiar with Gentoo. I haven't really messed with it. I mean, even way back in my early days of Linux, I kind of started out on Slackware, which was a bit of a challenging distro to use, but I used Slackware when I first set up my first Linux server way back in the early 2000s, and I really loved it. I thought it was great, and the server that I had set up was just rock stable. It ran on our network beautifully, right alongside some NT servers. Yes, it was really cool. So, being a non-Gentoo user, and not really being familiar with it at all, I thought I might be a great candidate to get in here and try out Redcore, because if it's easy for me and I can get around and understand it and not have a hard time with it, then it really is geared towards casual desktop users and laptop. So we'll see. Let's check it out. I'm going to go ahead and download the ISO, and then I'm just going to do the install because it does have a Calamares installer. And if you've seen one Calamares install, you've seen them all. So there's no point really in boring you with doing yet another Calamares install. So I'm going to download this guy, get her installed onto real hardware, not a VM, and then I'll be right back and we'll check this out. Okay, here I am at my login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Looks like we got a successful install. Just a little login here with my login super password, and we'll just hit enter and see what happens. And there we go. We got ourselves a Redcore desktop. Nice. That looks great. Really nice looking background here. I love this wallpaper. It looks really nice and leaves lots of rooms for the icon over here. Has a cool Redcore logo there. Redcore World 2101. Wow, what a coincidence. That's the same year I was born, before I was set back in time to this barbaric time period. Early 21st century. What were they thinking? Nah, just kidding. Or am I? So let's take a look at this. So here we got our KDE desktop, and I forgot to mention that earlier. This is the KDE desktop that Redcore comes with here. And so I'm going to just jump up here and just kind of take a quick look at some things. Like here we have our menu, of course, and it looks like we got our standard KDE menu. Pretty nice. And then it looks like these are all kind of mushed over on one side. So I think I'm just gonna slide those over real quick. I'm just gonna go into edit panel and just kind of move those guys like the clock. There we go. And then maybe these guys, I'll just slide them over. There we go. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that better. I think I'll keep it that way. Excellent. All right. So where was I? Yes. So right off the bat, the environment looks pretty nice. Here we got our standard menu that's kind of up here. And if we just take a quick look, we can see for development software, we got the Qt 5 Designer, Mathematics, a couple of games, Lutris and Steam. Wow, that's really nice. If you're wanting to get game in there, this is a good head start here. And we got our graphics, and we have Font Forge. That's a font editor. Nice. And we got GIMP. That's a important standby. And then LibreOffice Draw and Ocular, which is a file viewer, actually, especially if you want to look at PDF files. And then we have Mozilla Firefox. And that's kind of interesting. It's got like two separate versions that are tailored to the desktop that you're in, either for Wayland or X11. I think we're probably running X11 by default. And then Mozilla Firefox, which I think is just kind of the all-around Firefox. All right, and then we have Thunderbird. And then even those are kind of split up into a Wayland and X11 oriented spin there, it looks like. Then we have QBitTorrent and Steam, the same shortcut. So it's got it in there a couple times. And then we have our multimedia, K3B, which I think is a CD burning software, if I remember right, or player. And then we got MPV Media Player, nice, and PyCom, or Phonon Audio Video, QNNP, and VLC. Nice to see VLC on there too. I like that they put that in there by default as well. And then we have LibreOffice as our default office suite. So that's already set up here. Nice, and it looks like the full suite. And now we have our system, which is all kind of pretty standard there, except look at this. We got WoW USB and UNetbootin. So UNetbootin is a pretty popular USB writer if you want to create a bootable USB stick. Sometimes that's a pretty good choice, but they also have WoW USB, which I didn't expect to see. I don't think I've ever seen that installed by default on a distro before. That's kind of cool. WoW USB is something that you can use if you want to make a Windows boot CD. Like, for example, maybe you wanted WinPE or something like Hiron's boot CD, and you wanted to put that on a USB stick, but you need the NTFS file system and all that, and it's got to be created bootable so a Windows system will see it. WoW USB is just a solution for something like that. So that is really cool. I'm glad to see that there. And then under utilities, we got our Arc, Kcalc, Kfind, and Write. Nice. And then of course our power shutdown and all that other good stuff. Nice. And then over here, which I might need to just kind of scooch off to the side a little bit. Again, pretty much our standard KDE stuff. We got our clipboard contents, our audio, which is muted at the moment, so I can kind of unmute that, I guess. Out of the way. So there we go. Sounds like a noise I would make. And then our microphone settings, and then showing our applications that may be running sound, like if you're running YouTube and Firefox watching this video. And then there's our Bluetooth settings. Don't have that activated at the moment, naturally. Then our network settings here, and then hidden icons. So here we got our notification icons, our updates, night color control, vaults, cool. Battery and brightness, disk and devices, and keyboard indicator. So pretty thorough there. And then of course we got our calendar when we click on our clock, which is pretty classic KDE. So that's pretty nice. Now I'll just slide back into place here. Okay, so looking good so far. Even has an ask for help icon up here in the corner. So what happens if I click on that? Okay, it takes me out, opens up Firefox here, and it looks like it takes you right out to the Kiwi IRC. And even gives you a default nickname here, Web42. That's pretty nice. Not too shabby. I'm liking that. So I'm just gonna click this and just see what happens. There we go. We are in. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's something I didn't expect either. That's a surprise. Nice. And then you got these guys in here, and they're all chatting about stuff. What they had for dinner last night, and who's gonna win the Red Sox game? The Red Sox versus what is it? The Penguins. Yeah, that's it. All right. So yeah. And in one swoop, we could see that Firefox is working just fine. And since we got this open, let's check out the version here. So if we jump over to Help and About Firefox, we can see that we are running 89. Okay, so yesterday morning, I updated Firefox on Arts to 90.1-2, I think it was. I could be off on the dash. However, this is close. It's at 89, but it probably hasn't run any updates yet either. So that would be kind of possibly why. Or they're just holding back, because a lot of distros, they will hold back just a little bit. And Redcore is a rolling release because Gentoo is a rolling release. So it's going to be pretty up to date. But yes, they probably, I'm assuming they might hold things back just a little bit, just kind of like maybe like Manjaro does, just to make sure stability issues are not going to be a problem. Yeah, that's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out here real quick. And when I was off camera, I changed the cursor there a little bit by mistake. So I'm just going to go into our settings because that was our next stop anyway. And I think the first thing I'll do is just kind of change back the cursor just so you can see the default Redcore cursor. I like the fact that the way they got this theming, they got these subtleties kind of referring to the Redcore name. Like they kind of got the red highlighting here. And if I were to open up the file explorer like Dolphin, let's see how that looks. Wow, really nice. And the red over here, again, red combined with gold, which looks really great. I like that theming. And they didn't overkill on the red. So that's nice to know too. With a name like Redcore, they could have just like made everything red windows and red backgrounds, and they could have gone nuts, you know. And sometimes Linux developers are great at coding, but they don't have real great taste when it comes to the artistic side of things. So I like the fact that this is really well done, well balanced, and has a nice overall aesthetic to it. I think that's a big plus. So when I was off camera, I got screwing around in here a little bit and changed the cursor kind of by mistake, because I was in the appearances here and I downloaded a couple of extra themes offline just to kind of see what they would look like. So I put them in here, and that was kind of cool. And then when I was in the cursors, I popped it up to Breeze and then didn't change it back. So I'm going to change it back right now just so we can have the default kind of Redcore look. So this is what the kind of cursor we actually have when we start up. It's kind of a cool looking cursor. I really kind of like it actually. And here's our appearance. And so if we go into our appearance, what I did was by default we had the Breeze, Breeze Dark, and Breeze Twilight for our global themes. And remember, if you set a global theme, it's probably going to change possibly your icons as well. Now, where I got these themes here is I went out to get new global themes, and when you do that, it'll take you out into the internet, and I'm not really quite sure where it connects to, probably something like KDE look.org or something. And so they pull off. So the nice thing about KDE is you can kind of get your themes right from within the desktop environment, whereas as opposed to some desktop environments where you need to actually go out to a website like gnomelook.org or something to that effect, xfcelook.org, and manually either download the theme and put it into a .themes themes folder in your home folder, or you can install something that's called OCS-URLs, and it'll let you install it from the browser. But it's still a little bit of extra work. And in KDE, you don't have to do that. You can just go right out from here and just look for stuff. And you can do a search if you want something that's, if you already kind of got an idea of what you're looking for. If you want something that's more Mac-like, you can go up here and just kind of type Mac OS or something. Maybe you wanted something like Big Sur. Probably pop big in here. Not sure if that's all one word or not. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So here we got a Deepin Big Sur theme, Mac Sur, an alternate global theme. So you can even add those, make it look like a Mac if you're a Mac guy. So anyways, if I was gonna change one of these themes, like Win 10, and hit apply, whoa, what a contrast. One thing I want to point out though is when I was off camera before and just kind of adding these themes in here just for the video, I did notice that the compositing was turned off. So down here we have a transparency here in our taskbar and our bottom panel here. And that transparency wasn't there originally. It was just kind of solid. And the theme really didn't look that good. And I realized that the compositing was off by default. So if you find yourself loading in some kind of alternative theme like Deepin or something like that, or you just notice that the compositing is off, my experience was that it was off by default. So I had to go in and turn that on by going into displays, I think it was. I always forget where the compositing's hiding, but I think it's display and monitor. Yeah, here we are, and compositor. And so this was unchecked by default, and maybe it was just my hardware, I don't know. However, all I had to do was just check this box and then I was good to go. All the defaults were already set, and so I didn't have any issues there. So that was kind of the issue there. So I wanted to kind of point that out just in case you kind of run into the same issue, and then that'll turn compositing on. And so this is supposed to be the Windows 11 look, and I've never sampled Windows 11, so I can't tell you how close this is, but to me it does have kind of a Windows feel. I really like those icons. Those look really cool. That's nice. So if you want to, make your friends think you're on Windows 11, then there you go. Personally, I'd rather make my friends think that I'm on a cooler operating system, like, something Linux based. But that's just me. Anyway, this is a really nice looking theme though. I do kind of like it overall. But I guess, and then we have the Deepin one, which the Deepin global theme, I kind of got the idea from Mustafa, who had just kind of left a comment about the global theme. And then it kind of looks like the Deepin in the efficient mode, I think is what they call it, when you have the bottom panel going all the way across. And then if you wanted to make it look even more like Deepin, you could just kind of right click here on the icon here for your menu and then select show alternatives. And you can give yourselves a more Deepin like menu by clicking up here to select the application dashboard, because the other menu kind of looks like Deepin when the menu's shrunk down, minimized. But if you like the dashboard look, then you can do that here and just hit switch, and then yoink, you got all this. Cool. And so by default, it looks like it's going in categories here. So yeah, and then your favorites off to the left, and then your shutdown, restart, and all that is over here. But we're kind of missing some icons up here. So I think maybe the Deepin theme, at least on this distro, is kind of not real happy with the icons. Let's just jump down here, because I think I downloaded the icons too. That's a separate download. So I had to go in here and get new icons and find the Windows icons for that too, I think. And here they are, the Win 11 Dark. So if I were to select that, theoretically our icons might appear again. But that's one thing you got to keep in mind when you're using themes, alternate themes, is sometimes the icons don't always show up. There we go. That looks better. All right. Now we're geared more towards the Win 10 icons, and that I think is going to work. And so then if we jump in here, then our icons should have adjusted accordingly, which they look pretty colorful. And I'm just going to jump into Dolphin here, There we go. And it looks like the icon isn't really showing up right here, but that might appear in the next login. So that's another thing. You can always try re-logging in if you notice that or if it bothers you. Otherwise, just use a different set of icons. So yes, that's the deepen one. And if you kind of wanted to look more like fashion mode, all you'd have to do is go into edit panel here and then just drag the sides and pull it. And it's kind of hard to see, but here you got this little thing and you can drag it. But first it's set for, I'm going to scooch out of the way here. I think right now it's, there we go. It's set at maximize. Here we go. So we can just drag it back and then we can make it look more like fashion mode. And that kind of centers it, I guess. So we can size it on this side and center it from the other side. So yeah, that's kind of how you can get the fashion mode look there. And then of course, if you want to make it bigger, easy peasy, just go here to panel height and then just click on this guy and you can crank it up there and get it looking more like this. And you notice the icons are kind of small here on the task manager, so they didn't grow with the other ones. So if you're kind of doing this and you want to increase your height here, what you want to do when you see that happen is to hover over the system tray and then go to configure and then just select scale with panel height. Hit apply and then it's big, just like the others. All right. So yes, now we got it deepenified. Oh my God. Talk about getting off the whole Redcore default look, right? So anyways, yeah. So if you want to pimp your core a little bit and you like the deepen look, this is kind of one way to do it. And so I kind of like that. And then if we hit our X, then we're back. So I guess for the sake of simplicity, I'll just kind of keep that like that for now. And then of course here we can adjust our splash screen, and our splash screen actually was also included in our global themes, which is kind of an advantage of having a global theme if you really want to go the whole 9 yards. So if I were to hit play here, we can sample our splash screen. So when we log in, this is what we would actually see. Well, that's kind of cool. Really looks like you're in the Deepen desktop. And Deepen having the Kwin backend there practically is Plasma anyway with a Deepen skin, right? I suppose, yeah, loosely. And then the same with Windows 11 OS look. You kind of have this, and again, I haven't sampled Windows 11. It has a Windows-ish look to me. Personally, I just like having nothing for a splash screen. I just like getting right down to business and getting right into my desktop when I log in. So, yeah, that's just me, I guess. And so I'm going to hit apply, change that back to none. Yeah, that was our appearance, and I got a little bit off of a tangent, so kind of apologize for that, but I just thought that might be useful to somebody somewhere down the line at some point if they wanted to learn a little bit how to tweak the panel down here. And since we have a Deepen theme on here specifically, then why not tweak it to look like a Deepen modern efficient mode kind of look. And then under here, our workspace behavior, this is where we can set our effects. So if you like cool things in here, like your wobbly windows and animations when you slide up and down and all that, then here's where you can do that, and the magic lamp and all that. So that's always good. I kind of like having effects. You also want to remember that if you have an old machine that doesn't have a lot of resources, then every time you add in different effects and so forth, it's going to tax on your resources a little bit. So it's going to take more resources and it could slow down your machine as a result. The compositor being off by default, like when I showed you earlier, going into the display settings and turning on the compositor, if you do have real resource problems and your machine's running like a snail, because it's old and you don't have a lot of memory or what have you, a weak processor, then you can turn off the compositor or leave it off if it's off by default for you. And then that'll save a lot of resources and you should be zippy again. And then we have our screen edges here. Typically, I just like having these off. To me, they're kind of annoying. Because I'm always moving my mouse around and I get up in the corner and then I trip something and yeah, it's kind of annoying. So we'll hit apply there. Then we have our touch screen, and then screen locking. And I like that that's unchecked by default. That's pretty cool, because usually I go in and uncheck the screen locking because it's always set at 5 minutes, which is pretty annoying. And so I usually either disable it or I crank this up to like 45 minutes to an hour. But I like that that's off by default. And then here's where we got our file clicking. If you want to open a folder, if you like to double click, this by default is set at double click, which I also kind of like. Or actually, this is set for a single click. Opens them. So if I was to jump in here, see a single click opened up our... So I didn't even realize that until just now. Okay, so if you single click on, like say this folder here, you'll go right into downloads. And so if you like that, it's pretty much like being on the internet. You just click something and you go, like a link. But if you're used to dragging and dropping and kind of doing things like this, or multi-selecting, it might be confusing at first, because you'll come up here and you'll maybe want to hold your control key down and multi-select, so you'll click on desktop and oops, oh, it just went into there. So then it's like, what? So it makes it pretty annoying if you want to multi-select and be selective, where maybe you just want to select desktop and templates and pictures separately. Then it's kind of annoying in that respect. So if you wanted to undo all that and just double click to get into something, just come in here to workspace behavior, general, and clicking files and folders selects them, and then it will select them instead of opening them, and then that will solve that problem. So if we go here to apply and then come back, now we can just select it by clicking on it, and if we want to go inside, then we would double click. So that's something to keep in mind, just in case you're new to KDE and you get in here and find yourself everything single clicking and it's driving you crazy. That's where you fix it. And pretty much everything in here is your run-of-the-mill KDE settings here, I believe. So you got your window behavior and all that, which I've gone over in other KDE videos. So no sense in rehashing the stuff there. And our startup and shutdown. Again, this is where we can set our startup programs and so forth, our desktop sessions. This is our login screen. So if you want a different login screen, like maybe you want the Windows login screen, you can go here and hit that, and then maybe select and change the background there if you like. So it gives you a lot of options here. It's really cool. And then the same with the deepen. If you want the deepen background, you can do that by coming up here and hitting apply, and then you'll have yourself a deepen, or just something else. You can just apply it and then give it a password. But don't give it a fake password, because then it won't work. I know you were tempted. See, I told you it wouldn't work. And then if we go back to all settings, again, notification, users, again, here where we can change our default icon. Let's see what they have. So a lot of cool choices here. These I think are probably mostly our KDE defaults. That one's kind of different. I don't remember seeing that one. Man, that looks a lot like me too. Wow. Scary. So I think I'll go with that. And then of course we have our applications, default, online accounts, network settings, connections. Yeah, we're all kind of just pretty standard stuff here. But then when we get to the bottom here, we got our system information and software update. Let's check our information real quick. So here we see that we are using the Redcore Linux hardened, and it's got that cool planet with the things orbiting around it, it looks like. Or if you looked at it in a weirder way, it kind of looks like a big red spider over her egg. Ew. Yeah. So anyways, we got info here showing our KDE Plasma version at 5.2.15 or 5.21.5. And then our framework, we're at the 5.28. And then our Qt is pretty right on par at 5.15. And it looks like we're on the X11 graphics platform. Very good. And it's utilizing about 11.6 gigs of RAM. There's 16 gigs in the machine. And then with an HD graphics 3000 Intel. Nice. And you can copy all that to the clipboard if you need to send that info somewhere. Very handy. And then here's our software update settings. So here's where we can update our software manually or automatically. Typically, I leave it on the default, which is manually. So that's cool. Use offline updates if you want to download them all first and then just kind of run them by yourself. So there you go. And speaking of updater, I thought I saw a Discover link down here in the taskbar when I first logged in, but I'm not seeing it now, so I might have somehow knocked that out of there. But I do think by default you have Discover, and I think even the system settings down here in the left-hand corner of the bottom panel. So I might have done that. But if we open up Discover here, you can see that it doesn't really work. And so I researched Discover, and I don't think it's really a Gentoo/Redcore issue. I think it's either my hardware or it's an issue with Discover, or maybe a combination of all three. My hardware, Redcore, and and maybe something else. But I went out and I researched it a little bit, and I found some answers that none of them worked for me. One solution was to reinstall app stream, I believe it was, and app stream Qt-5, which doesn't seem to be in the Gentoo repositories. But reinstalling app stream didn't work. And then another solution was to go into your network settings and set it so under general that everybody has access, and that didn't work either. So, and there was another solution which is escaping me at the moment, but nothing that I tried. I found several different solutions and I tried them all, restarted between each one, and nothing had any effect. So I've pretty much come to the conclusion that Discover is just broken, at least on this distro. So yeah, I'm just gonna write off Discover here. However, you have Sisyphus, and Sisyphus is the wrapper with the GUI here. We have the GUI Sisyphus, if you like doing the GUI stuff. And there's downloading, or I mean it's opening up, but it's on the wrong screen, so I'm gonna drag it over here because I got a couple monitors going on. And so here's Sisyphus. So this is our add and remove software, our software package manager, so to speak. And again, not real familiar with the Gentoo side of things, but Sisyphus looks like it's a direct wrapper to the terminal side, which I think if I open the terminal, I can use the Control-Alt-T, maybe. Give that a try. Yeah. So here we got our terminal, and I'm just going to go ahead and magnify that a bit. And so I believe we could also use Sisyphus here, except I think I got to be super user. So no, I guess not. Nice. You do if you're using Emerge, I believe, which is also the packager wrapper. So cool, yeah. If I wanted to install something like Inkscape, I could probably just do like a Sisyphus. I prefer the console over using the GUI personally, but I just want to show both. So let's try Sisyphus install Inkscape and see if it works. Ah, yes, you do need super user permissions. You can't use sudo here. I'm assuming that's a Gentoo thing, but sudo is not in there, so you actually got to kind of go in as super user and log in, and then we can do Sisyphus install Inkscape, and theoretically it'll work. Looks like it's fetching updates, so that's a good thing. And I would probably just update through Sisyphus as well. I think you can if you do Sisyphus update, because Discover is not going to get you there. At least it's not going to get me there. It may get you there. And if you're familiar with this issue on Redcore and you have the same issue but you solved it, I would love to hear from you and hear what you did. And I could even possibly do an update on this video just to kind of cover that issue. So anyways, it's resolving dependencies, and I'm just going to let it do its thing here. It's taken a while, so not really quite sure if that's normal. Maybe Sisyphus is kind of slow. Kind of like me, I'm a little bit slow. So here again, the Sisyphus GUI is here, and it kind of looks like I don't know, it kind of reminds me a little bit like DNF to Agora for some reason. But the name of your apps would be over here. So if I was going to put something in here like Inkscape and just type that in and do a search, then it shows up down here. And by instinct, I always want to look over here for Inkscape, and it's not there. And it confuses me at first, but it's actually right here. So if you think you didn't get a result, remember to look in the second column for Inkscape. And so we can just select it there and do an install, and we're good to go. And so I'll go in my Windows list here and just kind of look in the console. So it looks like it found all the dependencies and everything for Inkscape. So I can just hit yes, and we'll just let that install. And it looks like it's installing really good. So the Sisyphus seems to be working really good here in the console. I like that. And this is actually the first time I ever really tried installing anything Gentoo style. And I think Emerge is another wrapper you can use to install as well. You have to be super user, but I don't really quite remember how you use Emerge. I think it's just simply Emerge and then the app name, like Emerge Inkscape. And theoretically it'll install. So yeah, it's kind of doing this download thing here, and we're at 11 out of 15. And there we go. It looks like it is complete. So if I jump in our Windows list here, and that's pretty hard to see. I got a lot of transparency. This is probably not the best theme to use in the world, but you know. Okay, it looks like it did not install. There seems to be a reference to masked packages there. And that did take a while. Well, okay. Back to Sisyphus, or is it Hissy-Fit? Let's try installing it in here. So we'll just go ahead and click on this guy and then install selected packages and see if we get a better result with this. No package selected. So select, install, and this might take a couple minutes. It took a couple minutes in the console. So I'm just going to pause this real quick, and then I'll be right back when it's done. And she's in the updating process. Moving right along here. Still installing, but looking good. After this install too, I think another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the update from here in Sisyphus, and I'm going to take another look at Discover, because if I remember right, you can download flat packs through Discover, and so that might be working actually. I'm going to try to turn that on and see if we have any luck with flat packs. So between Sisyphus and Discover, I think we're probably just fine. Okay, that took just a couple minutes there, and there's all kinds of gibberish down there, so that might suggest that it didn't install. Yeah, it looks like 0 packages possibly installed, but let's just take a quick look. And I'm not seeing Inkscape there, so yeah, probably we gotta do an upgrade here to the system. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that and let it do its upgrade, and hopefully that's not gonna take too long. But I'll just let it do its thing, and then I'll come back after it's done and we'll try doing an install again. Again, I'm not a Gentoo person, so maybe Gentoo kind of works the way Arch does, where you need to be up to date before you install things. And so that might be the issue. So we'll let this upgrade run, and afterwards we'll give it another try. It's been about 3 minutes now, and it's still going steady. And while I was sitting here waiting, if you notice, the bar has gone down here at the bottom. It's set to auto hide, and so I changed that in the settings there so it would be more full screen and a little bit less intrusive, and it'll pop up when I bring my mouse down just like that. And so if you're not, for those not familiar with KDE, all I did was right click, go to the edit panel, and then if I scooch myself out of the way, I just select it over here, the more options, and then I change this to auto hide, where before it was always visible by default. So just select auto hide or any of these other ones if you prefer, then you will get a different result. So that's how I did that. And then of course just come up here and close this guy. It'll get you out of edit mode. And so that's where we are with that. Just a little FYI. All right, back to sleeping while this upgrades. And I'm back. about another minute went by and it's still upgrading its thing. But I thought, well, it's doing that. Why not just jump over here and open Discover again? And we'll just open this guy. And let's try setting this to flathub while we're waiting. So if we jump in here, and it's been a while since I've been in Discover. I don't use it a ton, but I think if we just go here to settings, there should be a, yeah, here we go, Flatpak. And I don't think that's checked by default. It's really hard to tell with that color scheme. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here to add flathub and just check that and then type in my password. Okay, and then I think that should have done something theoretically. So flip over here and here we got our flathub. So cool, and it looks like we got a lot of stuff just kind of coming up by default there. So let's try downloading something. Let's see, I think Shotcut is a flathub app. So let's try that. And got a funky thing going on with my keyboard. Might be time to change the battery. Okay, I got my battery changed out now, so now I can type, I believe. Yes, that's much better. Okay, we'll hit Shotcut, and then we should get some hits here for Shotcut, I'm thinking, and wasn't seeing much there, so maybe there is not a Shotcut. I thought there was. Let me try that. Ah, there we go. Okay, so just had to do it right, that's all. So here we have a Shotcut and install, and nice to have my battery back. What I had to do on the battery was I had to order a new one, so a AA. I got out the pen and paper and wrote down, please send me a new AA battery, and encloses a check for $2. And then it said, please allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery, but it only took 4 weeks. Wow. Technology is so amazing. Okay, back to install. Somehow I take it that you're not believing my story here. Well, that's good, because it was just that, a story. So, okay, our Flatpak is installing. And in case you're wondering why I didn't do Inkscape again, that's because I'm waiting for this upgrade to go. And it's been taking a while, almost 20 minutes now. I think we're at about 16 minutes roughly, give or take. Must be a big update. But we'll just keep it simmering. And Shotcut is almost installed here. And typically I don't install software when something else is updating. But since it's a Flatpak, it's not really going to be any issue with dependencies. Might slow down the update a little bit, but should be pretty safe overall, being a Flatpak. And actually I forgot to look just to verify that that was a Flatpak. So I'm just going to jump down here real quick and just see if there's any mention. Yeah, there we go. In our source, we got source flathub Flatpak. So very good. That confirms that we're getting the Flatpak. Nice. And after I did that, let's see. It looks like we're at 17% right here with our task, because I kind of lost the whole status thing during the install. But here we can kind of monitor it, and we're at 27% on the install. So the install's kind of taking its time a little bit here. And from what I understand about Gentoo, things usually have to be built from source. So maybe that's kind of how it works in Gentoo. I'm not really sure, because again, I'm a non-Gentoo guy coming into this distro and seeing how I can use it without knowing about Gentoo. And so far, I think I'm surviving pretty good. I think if I was actually doing a Gentoo install from scratch, it would probably take me 3 times longer than it would somebody that's messed with Gentoo before. And in fact, while I'm recording this video, I got a comment from Mustafub here that says, Jack, you'll laugh. I did it on VirtualBox, but I'm installing Gentoo. Ha ha ha. I started about, many hours ago, and it's about to be morning. Wow. So yeah, that is funny. I kind of like that. I just had to acknowledge that because I just saw that, and we're doing a Gentoo related video. So yeah, that kind of underscores. And Mustafab is one sharp cookie. He is somebody that knows his way around Linux really well. So if it's taken him a long time, you got to imagine that, yeah, Gentoo is a bit of a challenge, even for the best of them. Yeah, I couldn't resist but to show that while we're waiting here. So back in here, Looks like Shotcut's fully installed. So if I go over to the main menu, I should be able to see it now installed. And there it is, Shotcut. So we have our Flatpak, and it looks like it installed successfully. I just kind of double clicked on it and it opened right up. So there we are. Nice. One of my favorite video editors is Shotcut. And so that installed very easily, and being a Flatpak, it should be the latest. But we don't want to check about cute. So it is 21.06.29, which I believe is the latest and greatest. Excellent. So now that we got all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and wait on Sisyphus any longer unless some other idea pops in my head, and just let this update continue. And then after the update, theoretically, I'm thinking that installing something from the package manager, such as Inkscape, should be successful afterwards. So we'll find out. I think we're getting in the home stretch. It pretty much downloaded everything now. There was like 500 different items, 501 to be exact. And now it's doing an install. And so we are at 1 of 501. So it's got to install 500 more apps. So that was just a quick update. And after that, I'm going to probably launch Discover just for fun, just to see if maybe that error message goes away and it connects to the internet. And if not, then I might try just restarting the computer and just see if that update really took hold. So I'm going to pause again, and in another 6 to 8 weeks, just like my battery, it will be done. Yes, it will. So far it's been about a half an hour. Yeah, it's taken a while, but it looks like a pretty big update. So I got to cut it a little slack, I guess.
It seems like forever.
Well, it's been about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we're only about a fifth of the way through the upgrade. This is probably the slowest update I've ever seen, outside of Windows update anyway. So I think I'm going to abandon the idea of waiting for the update. I'm going to let it keep running though, and I'll update you in the description if that had any effect on the install on the Inkscape, or I might do a follow-up video. As far as our Flatpaks go, that looks just fine. It looks like we're good there. Now we get featured programs, because I think what it's doing is it's connecting to the FlatHub repository. So personally, I like installing from FlatHub when I can anyway. So that's looking better. I'm feeling better about that. I can get to FlatHub with no issues at all with the Discover. So primarily, Discover would probably be my FlatHub way of installing things, if nothing else. And I'm kind of liking this theme. It's really growing on me, this icon theme. That's pretty cool. Other than that, let's see. Redcore is based on OpenRC as opposed to Systemd. And so there's a lot of debate about Systemd versus OpenRC. However, I don't really have any side on that debate, one versus the other. I've always kind of been in Systemd installs and always been real happy with it. I've never had an issue with Systemd, and personally I think it's just fine. Other than that, let's go take a look at our backgrounds. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this window here, and let's right click and go to Configure Desktop and Wallpapers and see what kind of wallpapers we got to choose from. This default wallpaper is really nice, so I could be totally happy with that. And there's the autumn wallpaper. That's one of my favorites, actually. I do like the autumn. I have that on a couple of my other desktops. So that's a nice background. This is pretty cool. And I keep forgetting we're in KDE. In KDE, you got to hit apply every time you change a wallpaper. That's the only downside with KDE. Yeah, is you don't get instant results when you do this. It's a minor piddly little thing, but it does spoil you after a while, especially if you're in XFCE or Deepin or Cinnamon. I think these other desktops, a lot of them, you can just go in there and click and get an instant change, which is cool. Yeah, I kind of like that background. I might kind of hang with that one. Yeah, that'll work. So let's go with that. And also, you notice we have icons on the desktop. Now, some people don't like icons on their desktop for whatever reason. Maybe they came over from GNOME and somehow they got themselves into KDE and they're like, oh my God, icons. Well, never fear. There's a way around that. You can come up here under Layout and change this from Folder View to Desktop. Hit Apply now, and those pesky icons are gone. So now you have a nice clean desktop that has absolutely no use at all except a pretty picture in the background. Just like GNOME. So, cool. And then again, for the rest of us that like having icons on the desktop, since fairly recently, KDE has kind of switched to a horizontal default layout with icons. I don't have another icon on the desktop, but if I were to just maybe stick an icon out there, like, I don't know, throw that out there, like drag a link out there and just copy it and stick that folder out there. Actually, I could have linked it. So now we got two folders here, and you notice I can kind of drag it anywhere I want. But if we go in here to our orientation, if we go down to icons, right now our default arrangement is in columns because when I was off camera, I had just, yeah, that was kind of dumb to put that whole folder out there, copy it. But aside from that, by default, this was arranged in rows. And so this is how it was actually arranged when I first booted in to the KDE desktop. And so some people could be put off by that if they're used to having columns in their icons. So if you get in there and you install KDE and you notice that all your columns are going across the top and you're like, I don't like that, then you can just, that's where you would change it. Just go into your desktop settings where it says configure desktop and wallpapers, click on icons and just set your orientation to columns instead, and then hit apply. And then they'll be up and down. That way you can have a vertical arrangement. So that's one thing that's kind of changed fairly recently. So it's pretty easy to resolve if you don't like the new layout going horizontal. Easy peasy. It's just knowing where to look. That's it. A lot of things are easy. They're just hard to find. So, yeah, there you go. I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to cover here. I had no clue that the update would take forever. So I guess if I was going to give a sideways thumbs or a hiss to anything, it would probably be the update process. But it's only like a sideways thumb because I can't really determine 100% whether it's maybe some issue with the hardware, a glitch in my internet, maybe I got a lousy connection today, or if it's just something else. Although those packages are downloaded now, so it's actually in the install process, and that part is just taking ungodly long. So I guess I can't blame the internet on that. But I don't really know why it takes so long, and I'm not sure if that's the same experience other people are having, or if it's just something unique to me. So if anybody else has had a quick experience or a long experience in doing an upgrade on their Redcore Linux, feel free to chime in down in the comments and let me know. I'd like to hear your experience and to see if maybe I'm just alone in all this. Other than that, probably not a deal killer, but it would make me want to try the distro for another couple of weeks just to see how future updates went after this, to see if they were just as painful or if it was a one-off thing. So that would probably be kind of how I would feel as a new user and as a user not familiar with Gentoo. However, overall, I feel like this distro, being Gentoo based and so forth, has a very rock solid feel to it. It's not really a scientific principle to go on there. It's really more just intuition. It just feels like it. Back in the day, I've downloaded or I've installed and set up some Linux servers. They had this rock stability compared to the servers that were running when they were Windows based, and one of those servers was actually Novell based, running Border Manager, and wow, that was about as unstable as the Windows was. But you know, sometimes you just get certain distros, and back then when I set up a Slackware server, It was so stable. I mean, it kind of reminded me of FreeBSD, where you could just run it for 2 years and never have to touch it, as opposed to, like, say, a Windows server where you got to reboot it every so often. You know, Slackware was kind of in that league. I never had to touch it. I think I did run it like 1.5 years without ever having to do anything. And when you experience things like that, you get kind of a feel, just like a pilot gets a feel for an aircraft, and any little subtle vibration can be noticed by a very experienced pilot as something being off or something being good. And in this case, this has that good vibe to me, as something being very stable. So that's what my gut tells me here with this distro. I'm going to quit speculating, because I'm just going to make myself look dumber by the second. So with that, I want to give this distro overall a thumbs up. I really like the choice of KDE as the feature desktop here, so that's a definite thumbs up. And when I launched Shotcut, it came right up, boom, very snappy. So I was really impressed with that. It feels like the system breathes very well, and I find it to be really interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on this distro here and just kind of come back to it every so often. I'm going to put it on a spare laptop, I think, and just play with this, because this is one of those intriguing that make me want to just kind of keep dabbling. I guess it's kind of like a geek with a gadget, and it's got new things on it, so I just kind of want to learn what makes it tick a little more. So overall, I got to give Redcore Linux a big thumbs up, and I think I would recommend this. I don't know if I would recommend this to a beginner, because I do find the whole packaging thing a little bit on the clunky side, because of the fact that we're waiting on these updates and I couldn't install Inkscape right from scratch, or right from the terminal even, because I was getting conflicts, and probably to an experienced Gentoo user that couldn't be easier to deal with. But for a casual desktop user perspective that doesn't know Gentoo, yeah, not so easy. I think if you know enough to be dangerous and you like to tinker a bit, give this a try, especially if you're kind of intrigued with Gentoo, period. Do this first. This is a great way to get your feet wet. And then that way, if you really want to go for a Gentoo scratch install, maybe follow DT's video or someone. From what I understand, the Gentoo website is actually extremely well documented. So I think you can't go wrong whether you follow the website, wiki there, or somebody's tutorial like DT. It could be a fun experience. It might open up a whole new universe of possibilities in Linux. So give it a try. Start with Redcore, and you might even stay there. I could see that. And with that, I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. I totally appreciate it. And if you didn't like this video, then, well, leave me 2 thumbs up. That'll fix me. Alright, so, oh, and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.